Hi everybody, how's doing? Welcome back to This Is My Story, your unofficial Hearts podcast. As we say all the time, new season on the horizon, but we thought we'd start this new campaign with a bit of some serious chat, a bit of a swerve ball for this podcast, but it's an intriguing topic. It's something that I think loads of folk need to be aware of and get behind as well. So, Innes, welcome, my man. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, Liam. Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
No bother at all. We obviously have a bit of deadly rivalry on the go here with you being from the wrong side of the city, but we can touch on that. We can touch on that after because I don't know who gloats at this very second.
I can't believe you mentioned that so early on. They're going to turn it off.
Well, to be fair, neither of the two of them get in it to slag each other a bit. I think we'll just have an argument as to see who's worse.
I literally just posted a video on Instagram saying pigs are flying, folks. Innes Burns is about to go to Hearts podcast. Yeah. And after the week we've had in Andorra, I am absolutely bricking it. So
you'll be fine, mate. You'll be fine. I can be friendly. But my man, just gives a brief introduction to yourself and talk us through why you're on the pod and that today.
Absolutely, and yeah, I just want to thank you again, Liam, because I know it's not sort of within your usual remit to talk about more serious stuff. It was the same with the Long Bangers podcast that was on earlier on today, and you're probably wondering why the hell a Hibs fan has been requested to come on the This Is My Story podcast. Well, we actually do like that song as well, actually. I know it very well. We do have a slightly different version, but we do sing it all the while. But no, and a more serious note, it's I'm on here to support and promote a charity that I've been doing a lot of work with in the past few weeks. It's called White Ribbon Scotland, and it urges men to make a pledge, a simple pledge, just to not to condone, commit, or stay silent about violence against women. And what the charity do is they go around Scotland, they approach different organisations, different schools, colleges, and they provide information and different training and ways that we can make small changes to our behaviour and our language that can make a huge difference for the safety of women. And I'll kind of explain why that's important to football, because I don't know, I'm sure you'll be able to cite instances where Hearts have done this as well, but I've seen last season there was a lot of LGBTQ plus initiatives that foster a more inclusive environment of football, to say to people, look, no matter who you are, no matter where you've came from, you're welcome to come enjoy the thing that we all love, and that is football. And I don't need to tell any of our listeners how important it is for people in Scotland to go up to the game on the Saturday after they're slogged, after the 9 till 5, after their anxieties, after all the troubles they've had at home, or whatever it is you've got going on during the week. It is important, so important for people to go to the football, just to have that outlet of emotion. And unfortunately, what comes with that from time to time from a few people is getting a wee bit lost in that emotion and saying things or doing things that they maybe wouldn't mean or maybe wouldn't do in their normal day-to-day life. And the example that always sticks with me is actually the last time Hibs and Hearts played at Hampden, and a man behind me shouted at Lewis Stevenson when he was going in for a tackle with a black player. I can't remember his name, forgive me. But he said something about showing his white supremacy or his white power in the challenge. And I turned around and I was genuinely in disbelief, and I was like, did you actually just say that? Did you actually just shout that, mate? And the guy, literally, he was all flustered. He was immediately like apologising, waving his hands like, mate, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I just sometimes get really excited and all that. Obviously, I told him to wind his neck in first and foremost, but the reason the reaction stuck with me, first and foremost, was that I did actually, I believed him. See, when he said, I don't usually do this, and it genuinely felt like it's not the type of thing he'd usually say, but there was a sort of misplaced emotion there that was coming from somewhere else in his life. He used the wrong emotion. He said he gets too excited. I thought it was actually misplaced anger from something else in his week. Obviously, we'll never know what was going on in that man's week, but we can all relate. And listen, I'm not condoning that. It was absolutely disgusting what he said. But we can all relate to the feeling, at least, of saying something that you maybe regret, you didn't know what the consequences were at the time, or just something that you wish you never said. Essentially, we can all relate to that simple feeling. And which brings me on to a man called Graham Golden that does a lot of work with Police Scotland. You might have heard of the Don't Be That Guy campaign. And he basically, and by the way, anyone listening to it, I'd urge him to give him a follow on Twitter. The work he does is outstanding. He basically asks men to reflect and be a little bit more cautious about the language that we use. You know, a lot of people make jokes and say, I'm just having a bit of a laugh or whatever. I'm not here to tell you that you're not having a laugh when you make certain jokes or maybe use controversial language. All I'm saying to you is when we normalize this language and use it more and more, it heightens the sense of legitimacy for the people that do take it too far. So it's almost like it puts a green flag instead of a red flag in their psychological subconscious somewhere when they go to act on these sort of horrible desires and inflict sort of violence in all its forms against women. Graham also talks about the need for active bystanders. So when, you know, people are like sneering at women, staring at women, you know, making sexual remarks towards women, and he encourages men to really act and intervene in these situations. Now, a lot of people might be thinking, well, that's not my problem. I'm not getting involved in that. Well, what I'm sort of out here to say to people is, it is your problem. I'll tell you why, because if you can think of a female that's close to your life, a sister, a daughter, a mother, a female friend, even your girlfriend. And this is one of the statistics that really struck a nerve in me and really prompted me to go out and explain this to people, that 97% of 18 to 24-year-olds in the UK have been sexually harassed by a member of the public. 97%. So when you think about that sister or that mother or that good female friend of yours, when I was just speaking a second there ago, the overwhelming evidence suggests they have been publicly sexually harassed. Is that not just a mental statistic? And the reason I'm here today and I'm trying to get more men involved in this conversation is because if women could have ended this already, they really would have. You know, it would have been a done and dusted. So that's why we need to target places where men gather, show them that it's something that they care about is behind these kind of causes, and use things as a vehicle, things that are at the heart of communities as a vehicle to make changes, small changes in their language and behaviour. And this is why I'm here, because I had the vision. You know, I go to the football myself, and I thought, you know, it'd be a good place to start. It is the football. You know, thousands of people go to the football every single week. It's groups of men. Yeah, women go as well, of course. But years ago it was traditionally men that went, and it's still a tradition that goes on today. So that's why I've placed a bid. Well, I've written a letter to both Hibs and Hearts. Hearts got back to me this week. I had a meeting with the owner, the director of the Community and Foundations, Anne Park, in the lovely Skyline restaurant in the main stand. Which, by the way, I lifted all the furniture up there, so it was a double dunter. But what a main stand that is, by the way. We've got a lovely coffee with Anne, and they're right on board with supporting this campaign. And the campaign is to encourage men to make that pledge with White Ribbon Scotland. You can literally do it right now. It takes 30 seconds of your time, whiteribbonscotland.org.uk, and it's making a simple pledge never to commit, condone, or stay silent about violence against women in all its forms. And forcing that interaction, just forcing men to do that simple thing, it'll make you think twice when you're about to say something controversial or make a joke that isn't appropriate in future. And the reason I say that is because I went to a Hibs Celtic game about 3 or 4 months ago, and I wore this white ribbon that I'm wearing today on my Untribal jumper. And I basically wore it to the pub. I was meeting 4 or 5 of my pals, and one of the first conversations we had was, "Oh, what's that badge? What's that about?" And I explained what the charity was. I explained a bit about the work I was doing, and every single one of them nodded. Every single one of them agreed, and every single one of them had a positive contribution to that conversation. So what happens there is, once they've spoke about that out loud, it's a bit like when you're trying to remember someone's name. When someone tells you your name and you instantly forget it, so you say it out loud to try and remember it. Once you force that kind of interaction, it sticks in your mind somewhere. So at least one of those guys that I was with that day, they will think twice before something comes out their mouth that's maybe inappropriate. And once we create that ripple effect of respect, that's when we start to get a safer society for everyone in Scotland. So this is what I'm here today to encourage people to support that charity, because I generally think it makes you a better person anyway. You know, if you entrench that kind of respect towards women, then you're much more likely to respect, people of ethnic minorities, for example, the LGBTQ plus community. You'll be a better person. Maybe that guy at Hampden would have made that comment if he had made a pledge with a white ribbon and started to watch what he was saying to people and had a little bit more respect. So this is what I'm here today to tell you guys, that I'm trying to push for a campaign for Edinburgh football to be industry leading in supporting White Ribbon Scotland, and hopefully we're going to do an awareness raising match. I say hopefully, but Anne Park did agree to it on Friday, so it's definitely going to happen. But we want to get the conversation going. We want to get the fan base on board. We want people to make that pledge with White Ribbon, and we really want to get this campaign going. And the reason I approach both Edinburgh football clubs is because I think it's more powerful when football clubs, even as bitter rivalries as Hibs and Hearts, come together and for bigger issues. And I think that's what I love about the Edinburgh Derby. When there's something bigger at play, we put football to the side and we concentrate on what's important. So hopefully with your guys' support, we can build something really powerful.
100%. And I think you're right to highlight the Edinburgh Derby has been pretty good when it comes to this stuff. We always manage to put our rivalries aside to say, actually, we have a social responsibility. Every 2 weeks we have 20,000 people inside a stadium. We can only do what we can do with our own. So, it's good that the clubs are behind it. And I think the most important thing you've just said there is the way you chip away at this, because if you look at it in isolation, it could seem like a huge issue and you think, how am I going to fix that? But it's those little conversations, it's those little ripples that turn into big waves, and that's how you start it. And I actually think that football gets a heavy bad rap, right? And don't get me wrong, there are some areas of football that are still miles behind where it needs to be. But I feel that societal issues play out in the amphitheatre of football. It's always sort of echoed that, football fans, this, that and other. But actually, you look right across our country at Motherwell and Hibs and Aberdeen and Celtic and Rangers and their ultra scenes or whatever, their fan groups, they're always doing amazing stuff with initiatives like this, whether it be this type of initiative or whether it be a local community drive, or it be food drives, food banks, etc. And I think when you have grown-up conversations with football fans, give them an opportunity to look themselves in the mirror without being judged, to say, look, we've all said daft things, right? We all did it. Like, no one wants to sit at Hampden and watch yourself get beat off your rivals. You say anything just to get that out your body because you're thinking, but it's that if you can take a step back and go, oh, actually, I shouldn't have said that, then they're small wins. It doesn't condone what the guy did or what the guy said, but there's an awareness there that at least you think, right, well, hopefully the next time he speaks out. And it's the same way, the small challenges, you have no one saying run in like a white knight and beat somebody up or pick a fight in public, etc., etc. But here, mate, come on, that's not right.
You don't have
to make a difference.
Absolutely, mate. And I commend you as well, Liam, because as soon as I phoned you, you were right on board with it. It just shows you, there is good people out there, and there's plenty of good initiatives, as you said, that fan groups have in place. And by the way, we're not out here to shame people or make people feel guilty. We've all, as you said, we've all said things that we regret. We've all said we've all turned a blind eye to what a loved one said or a friend said because we know they're good people anyway. What we're saying to you now is not to look back and shame yourself and beat yourself with a stick and get down the dumps. It's a more positive vision. It's to say, right, okay, that's whatever's in the past is in the past. Let's look forward. Be a better person going forward. There's always more that we can do. And I look at myself in that reflection as well, because I was always someone that grew up in an environment that wholeheartedly respected women. My old man used to say to me, God is here and women, your mum is here. And for anyone just listening today, mum is placed way higher than God. And I was always brought up in that kind of environment. But when I went to these events and when I heard the experiences of some of the survivors and stuff, I looked back at myself and I thought, no, I was like, I could be doing loads more. There's so many situations where I could have pulled a mate even a couple of days later and said, look, mate, that's not our part. Do you know what I mean? That's not what we're about. Let's just, let's cut that out. There's probably the jokes that I've made that are misogynist. I've not even realised at the time that I've made them, and I've made them. And it was an epiphany moment for myself, because I realised, no, even someone that would consider themselves as someone that would never even get involved with that, I can do more, and everyone can do more, and that's the point. And it's not to put guilt on people. It's to look forward and say, look, make that pledge for White Ribbon Scotland, take that first step, and hopefully if we all do it, then it'll create that ripple effect, as you said, Liam.
100%. So how can people sign up? Where do they need to go if they want to make their pledge and get involved?
Sure. So it's very simple. whiteribbonscotland.org.uk. It'll literally take 30 seconds out of your time, and you will instantly be a better person for it because you've made that first step into creating a better society for us all and the safety of women. So you go into the website. It literally takes 30 seconds, as I said. You make that pledge. You made a fresh start, and obviously get the conversation going. Wear the white ribbon, put it on your social media, get the conversation going, because people ask, "Oh, what is that? Like, what happened to be the pub?" Even just explain that to people and people listening, that'll play into their psychology somewhere down the line as well. So it's just getting the conversation going, and it's supporting the charity in any way you can and raising awareness, as I said, on social media, talking about it to your pals. And it doesn't need to be a constant active effort. It could just be when you come across something that one of your pals says, just say, "Yeah, mate, that was a bit out of line." And it's not to shame them either. It's just to say, look, we can be better than that. And that's all we're doing.
Yeah, 100%. And you'd mentioned there about, obviously, potential for a charity match or like a game bringing together. Is there anything else in the pipe works for supporting the charity?
Yeah, so it was, I mean, the reason I'm involved is because I'm a football fan, and I'm trying to really take it through Scottish football in as many clubs as possible. It's very difficult because clubs are always busy. They've always got stuff to do. The initial contact I had was with Anne Budge, who I sent an email to, and she was responded straight away. She was absolutely brilliant. And Anne Park, as I said, met us on Friday up at the ground. And we didn't have anything in store yet because we very much want to do it as a joint initiative with Hibs and Hearts. We think it'll be a more powerful message if it comes from both Edinburgh football clubs. So we basically say, I did write to Hibs, but they didn't get back to me. I met with my local politician down in Leith here, Ben McPherson, who's going to meet with hopefully a person at Hibs to try and get it going. Anne Park said to me, look, as soon as that happens, give me a call and we'll make it happen with the Hibs guys as well. Once that's in place, it will be a charity match. It will be a Premier League match that you will see it. There'll be stalls outside. There'll be a video on the big screen at half time or even before the match. And hopefully it'll spur things on. Hopefully other clubs will look at that and go, that's a brilliant initiative. Let's put that in place as well. So hopefully we're going to create a domino effect. We don't want to bite off more than we can chew just now. We want to focus on both Edinburgh clubs, set our stall out, make us industry leading, and see where it goes from there.
Good, nice. And you mentioned socials there. Is there any places if guys want to follow a Twitter or an Instagram or anything like that? Where can they find you?
So they can find myself at Innes Burns, L6 podcast on Untribal Politics. But White Ribbon Scotland have their own Twitter pages and Instagram pages as well. You literally just need to type in White Ribbon Scotland and you can get them there. And as I said, it's a little simple symbol, a little white ribbon. Put it on your social media, send a photo out, get the conversation going in any way you can.
Okay. And like I said, from myself, anything that you need from the podcast, we'll more than happily help and get involved where we can. It's some things are bigger than football, and this definitely falls into that category. So any support you need from us, and we will obviously keep on social medias and that as well. So if anybody is listening and wants more information, reach out to us. I've got Innes's number. We can get you any information that you want. So and if as I said, if you want to get involved and you want to do some work for the charity, reach out. Absolutely, it's a great charity. It's a great initiative. The more the merrier in terms of people doing work for it. I don't work for the charity myself, but I had them on the Untribal podcast about 3 months ago. I loved the work they were doing. I met them up at a Parliament event as well, and I just really wanted to help them. I'm just doing this off my own back, and I'd encourage anyone else that would be interested in the charity and think it's a good initiative to do the same. Same. Here. Right. Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room. We're both Hearts and Hibs. Like I said, pre-recording, we could just have an argument as to who's in a sorrier state right now, but how are you feeling for the season ahead?
Well, you just pipped it at the end of last season, didn't you? Just ever so slightly. I felt like that was a big opportunity for Hibs. We don't win at Tynecastle that often. It's certainly in recent. I mean, I'm only 27, and we don't win at Tynecastle that often. That was a huge opportunity for Hibs, and we didn't manage it. And do you know what? I looked at it last season, and Hibs, Hearts, and Aberdeen. They've all went through a turmoil period. They've all went through a wobble. and ended up on something. They're thereabouts. That's what happens. A lot of talk about Aberdeen and then being I don't think they're that great, Aberdeen, to be honest with you. I think they're overrated, and I think that Barry Robson, he could prove to be a good manager, but he could also prove to be a bad manager. You do get a manager's bounce. That is a thing. Hearts it's a difficult one. I don't know. Because I don't know about Stephen Naismith. I've got no idea how he's going to do. So it's hard to judge. I don't really have many thoughts about them. It's a bit of a strange one at Hearts. For Hibs,
I was going to say the Aberdeen one's a bit hard not to come across like sour grapes in it, because obviously it's dead easy for us to sit here finishing 4th and 5th and say, oh, they're no great.
But we love a bit of sour grapes in Edinburgh, though.
Yeah. They finished where they finished because ultimately they were the third best team in the country, which should be motivation and embarrassment enough for both the Edinburgh clubs to. I'm sick of both the Edinburgh clubs and how perpetual failures we are. When you look at Motherwell have played in the Champions League, St Johnstone have won a cup double. If Cali Thistle had won the Scottish Cup they'd have won one more Scottish Cup than you'll have won in 100 and how many ever years, and only be one cup behind how many we've won in my lifetime. And yet we'll sit and argue till we're blue in the face that we're the biggest clubs in this country outside Celtic and Rangers.
I still think we are, though, and I think you've got to look at the season tickets at Hearts for this season, for example. And there's no excuses for the Edinburgh clubs. It's a bit of a weird one, because when I was growing up, obviously you had the Romanoff years, and Hearts were obviously outstanding. They had all these great players. It was difficult for Hibs. We had a young team that were very good as well, to be fair, but we were always up against it. And I think Hearts fans, certainly my age, I don't know what age you are, Liam, but Hearts fans my age were used to that winning, and they were used to always being better than Hibs. It was ingrained. They're not used to not having a trophy every sort of 4 or 5 years or whatever it was back in those days. I can't. You won the Scottish in '99 and 2006, was it?
So basically every 10 years, 98, 2006, 2000.
Right. Well, yeah, they're thereabouts. But yeah, you know what I mean, though. They were used to always winning. I look at Hearts in the last 10 years, and I think, I just don't understand it. I just don't understand how that big a club are winning. I don't know what it is, because if you look at the teams that have won it, like Ross County, Inverness, St Johnstone with the double. Yeah. It's just,
and look at what Hibs got to 2 cup finals under Jack Ross, didn't they? Then you lose did you get to the semi-final?
We lost twice to St Johnstone. Jack Ross was he lost the semi-final of the League Cup and the final of the Scottish, and that League Cup was gifted to us, by the way. I can't believe we didn't. But yeah, I don't know. It's almost like a
typical Edinburgh club, isn't it?
It's almost like a psychological thing. I don't know what it is. But Hearts, I don't know. Since that cup win in 2012, it's just not really happened for Hearts on so many levels. Obviously, the relegations didn't help.
Demotions.
Yeah, the demotion. Okay.
But you're right. It's one of those weird ones where I think Hearts now they've spent a lot of time trying to fix the behind the scenes stuff, because for a long time, even under Rome, that it was a shambles. Like, do you know what I mean? We weren't part of our community. We weren't the identity of the football club. That's the same at Hibs as well. As soon as you lose where you are, where you're from, you disengage with the fan base, you isolate local businesses, etc. You do all this stuff that you really shouldn't be doing when shit hits the fan, and you're going to have to go back to those people that you've kind of cut off. It's your guys, it's the men and women that travel to Perth on a Tuesday night, finish early, spend their last monies on kits and travel to Andorra and all that. They're the lifeblood of the club, and you got to look after them. And I think Hearts have spent the last sort of 10 years since administration and Anne Budge coming in and the foundation taking over, really sort of getting that business side of things right. And I think they've taken their eye off the important stuff, which is on the park. We've been so focused on fixing the football club business side of it that we dropped the ball a couple of times. But things are finishing 3rd and then 4th. If we get through and into Europe group stages again, people will look at the last season and forget that we ever made a total arse yet.
But that's it. It's so fickle. That's the only thing. I think everything's in place for both Hibs and Hearts now. There's no excuses now. I look at Hearts, and by the way, Anne Budge has done an incredible job behind the scenes at that club. The main stand's fantastic. Even we talked about the community aspects. The Big Hearts charity is a phenomenal charity as well. Hibs have, I mean, off the field sorted their shit out. You can't accuse Lee Johnson of not being back.
Yeah,
supposedly we're spending 700 grand on this striker from Holland, this boy Vente as well. We spent 700 grand between Melkerson and fucking McCurdy as well. I mean, we've spending a lot of money now. There's no excuses now. I think this is a big season for Hibs. I think if they underachieve this season, fans are going to be asking questions like, what's going on here? Because everything is set up.
See, as a Hearts fan looking in, right, I honestly see Lee Johnson, and I think he probably everybody benefited the most from Robbie Neilson and Jim Goodwin losing their jobs, because if Robbie Neilson had done his job with Hearts, we were 14 points in front of Hibs at one point, 17 points in front of St Mirren, 11 points in front of Aberdeen. To finish behind Aberdeen and only 2 points in front of you, we shat the bed massively. And I think that's skewed Hibs slightly, because I don't think Lee Johnson is going to be a success at Hibs. I don't think he gets the club, if you know what I mean. And then you'll know this yourself. You'll have all had managers that, it was the same with Jack Ross, and to a certain extent, same with Robbie Neilson. They're not the type of folk that engage with the fans like that. Fans want somebody that they get the passion, or they get the club and all that sort of stuff. And I just think Lee Johnson gets Hibs, if I'm being honest with you.
It's interesting because, the example Hibs fans always cite is Neil Lennon, because he got it. He got Scottish football, and he was just a fucking raj. You know what I mean? But it's interesting. The Nielsen question I find really intriguing. I was about one of my best pals is a big Jambo season ticket holder, and he seems to think that Robbie Neilson was never forgiven because of that game that led up to us winning the cup.
100%.
And I look at Neilson in his first spell when he had Hearts at second. And it felt like he was chased at the club. Like, I don't know what that flying banner was. I don't know who that was or whatever, or how big a support the section was. But then I felt like it was history repeating itself. Because as you said, Liam, you said just battered us at Easter Road. You were 14 points clear, whatever. I remember the conversation I was having with my pal, and he was talking about, if we get within 10 points of Rangers, it's been a good season. This was the kind of chat that Hearts fans were having. And I wonder how much of the pressure of the fans led to Nielsen's demise, and how justified do you think it was?
So, I'm not a Robbie Neilson fan, right? I never have been.
And why is that? What's the reason behind it? Because he's done so well.
His figures are unbelievable for Hearts. Like, genuinely, he was unbelievable. And it's a really strange argument. Is that actually half of me thinks if we'd kept him in charge, we probably would have just scraped third and no more, because he always knew how to churn out results. But I liken it to the Jack Ross situation as well. Like I said before, he never really, at Tynecastle, he did very much like Craig Levein, turned Tynecastle into a fortress, don't lose any games at home other than Celtic and Rangers, but almost have the mindset of a draw away from home's fine. So we were always starting to get to a point where, we won 3-0 at Tynecastle, right, in the derby, but for long spells of that game, Hibs battered Hearts, but we just took our chances, and we scored in the last minute, made it 3-0, etc. But there was points where we were hanging on, and if you had scored one, I could have seen you went on to score 2 and 3 because we would have collapsed. And Hearts fans started to always be like that. The style of play was torturous, and only getting away with it because we were getting results. As soon as those results dry up, the performances aren't good enough to fix us. And that was like the big worry. And that's what people started to see with Robbie Neilson. And I argue, I've been on many different podcasts arguing about there was no extra pressure on Robbie Neilson that won't be on Stephen Naismith. There was no extra pressure on Robbie Neilson that wasn't on Craig Levein. You win your football matches, do what you need to do, play in a way that you want to see your football team play, and fans won't care less if you lose to Celtic or Rangers or whatever. You just have to put performances in, and our performances were turgid. You get beat 3-0 away to Aberdeen, to close the gap. It was 7 at the time. If we'd won, it would have been 10 and game over. We'd have finished third in a canter. Lose, it takes it back down to 4 points. Then you're in an international break. We'd already lost 5 on the bounce. We get beat 3-0 at Aberdeen. It should have been more than that. He gives the players 10 days off and he goes to Portugal with his family. Like, I'm sorry, but Hearts fans don't accept that.
Yeah,
you lose your game back.
Yeah, I mean, when I listen to it, you can definitely understand why the atmosphere turned. I think football fans, especially modern day football fans, they're very impatient. I looked at the Hibs fans that were in Andorra and think, fair play, I wasn't there. I didn't spend my money. I wasn't dehydrated for the pints in the Andorran heat. But I thought that was an overreaction. Okay, it's a bad result. It's probably one of our worst in history, but they do happen. We all have shockers. Hearts got beat up Brora Rangers not that long ago.
Exactly.
But it was the first game of the season. You need to give the guy a bit of a chance. It's the first time he's been able to draft his proper squads. Do I like the charisma of the guy? Not really. And I think that's really important in Scottish football. As you said, you need a character that you can get behind. And the two instances I always cite from Hibs and Hearts is Sean Maloney and Ian Cathro, which it was just laughable. The interviews and all that. You need someone to get behind. You need to be going into a derby, listening to a guy thinking, "I'm up for this. I want to get into this game." That's what another problem I had with Jack Ross as well. He was so sullen and conservative in what he was saying and methodical, and it was just boring. You just couldn't get behind it.
They're both from the school of Craig Levein. Exactly the same thing. And now Robbie Nielsen was the same. And you're right there. Lee Johnson up in George Street drinking pints the night before an Edinburgh derby.
Didn't get me started, mate.
That's not even that annoyed me, and I'm not Hibs fan.
What are you doing?
What are you then? Why put yourself in that situation? Do you know what I mean? Why put yourself in those situations? Well,
sorry, go
on you go.
No, I was going to say, I genuinely thought he was at the door at that point. Because there was that much hatred. The club was in so-called turmoil. I thought he was at the door. I thought he was just looking for attention. I think he's an attention seeker.
David Brent, he's a narcissist.
Yeah, they say, sorry, Liam.
Nothing, I was just going to say, if you were to put a prediction on the table this early before we even kick the ball in anger, where you reckon the Hibees are finishing this season?
Oh, God. My realist, Hibby, paranoid ways would probably say fifth again. I think it'll be a close run for third. But I don't know why, but there's something about Hibs appointing at Paul Hanlon captain and seeing him again at centre half and Lewis Stevenson still starting. I'm just like, change the fucking record, man. Honestly, we've brought in quite a lot of good players as well. Boyle's back. Johan's a good signing. If we get a centre forwards, Hibs could get firing and go on a good run. I'm not really saying that's a confident prediction, but yeah, I just if the last 2 years have taught me, just don't be confident. Expect the worst, and then hopefully we'll just get on with it.
That is the Edinburgh football mantra, isn't it?
What about yourself?
Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. I think Hearts will implode. I think I have a horrible, uneasy feeling that with the Naismith McAvoy thing, who's in charge and all that sort of stuff, I think that we'll. When I say implode, I don't see us running away with third. I think that there's too much anger left over from last season. I think the club have maybe underestimated just how angry the fan base were that, we're going to have to be, and it's only be amplified for the both of us. If we both go to the European competitions early, we're going to have to spend August, September, October, November watching Aberdeen play in Europe every Thursday, and that's going to sting because we were there last year and I know how good it is. I know how enjoyable it is. That'll hurt. And if we then start losing games, Hearts don't play Celtic, Rangers or Hibs until the 3 last games of the cycle. So we don't play either of the Old Firm or Hibs until October. Hearts really should be going to the end of that cycle unbeaten. They genuinely should. Do I see that happening? Nope. I think we'll finish fourth, but I'll be absolutely shocked to my core if Stephen Naismith is the man in the dugout at the end of this season.
Interesting. Well, it's so funny hearing you say we should go that cycle unbeaten, because that's the exact same conversation we're having down in the league. Let's see how many points we're on, and I'll get back to you before the derby.
Lose both the opening games of the season, the day for us. Joint bottom of the league. Innes, my man, thank you so much for coming on.
It's been good. Listen, you've treated me actually quite well. Crawford got me in touch. He was like, by the way, he's going to give you a dude on that podcast. You've actually been quite friendly, to be honest with you.
We're all right. We're all right here. We've got literally nothing to boast about either of the two of us. Maybe come the end of the season, if you're bottom six and we're cantering it for, I'll give you a bit more tighter.
Likewise.
Exactly, my man. Right, thank you so much, mate.
Yeah, and just as a final thought, guys, just to say it again, I can't stress enough, whiteribbonscotland.org.uk, make that simple pledge, takes 30 seconds, and hopefully you'll see me on the pitch at Tynecastle holding the white ribbon banner. But pie in the sky just now, but here's hoping.
Same. Cheers, my man.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Thank you.